I think everyone is in. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This is so exciting. We have what? 3 more Tuesday Times Roundtable for this semester. I'm so glad that you guys keep showing up for Tuesday, and we still connected in some form. For those that don't know, these are the Tuesday Times Roundtable, sponsored by the New York Times. We have usually these on campus. We've been having these events for 11 years. So this is the first time, of course, that we are doing everything online. We are super excited to have you. My name is Florence Dominguez. I'm the program coordinator for the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. And if you guys didn't know, as I said, these events are sponsored by the New York Times. If you don't know, if you're faculty, staff, or a student, you have free access online. You can visit our website to check how you can access the New York Times online for free. Some important reminders, please mute yourself. This session, as you can see, is recorded and we post it in our YouTube channel if you want to see it later. Now, we want to keep be connected somehow, so we encourage you to use your camera, but it's not a requirement. If you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. But again, we want engagement and participation, so feel free to share your questions in the chat. If there's a Q&A, please feel free to participate. If you're a Melanie student, you get 1 point for participating, and also if you're an honor student, you also get a point. One more thing that I wanted to say today, I don't know, for those that don't know, this week is a Veterans Appreciation Week here at FIU. So we have a very special event, a Tuesday Times Roundtable special event at 3 p.m. We are also giving 2 points, 2 medallion points for participation. But and it's an amazing event. It's advocating for military issues. So if you're free at 3 p.m., please join and let's show some support. And there's events all week long for Veterans Appreciation Week. What else, guys? Well, today we have, these are also very, very important topic, is National First Generation Day. So that's why we have 2 very special events for the first time ever, 2 Tuesday Times Roundtable on the first day. And we have Dr. Cruz and Melanie Rodriguez from First Generation Celebration Committee. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. Dr. Cruz is the director of FIU TRIO Student Support Services Program. Dr. Cruz is director for TRIO Student Support Services Program at the Office of Multicultural Programs and Services at Florida International University. Student Support Services are a TRIO program funded by the U.S. Department of Education to serve first generation, low income, and students with disabilities at Florida International University. For more than 2 decades, she has been actively educating and serving underrepresented populations at a variety of educational institutions in the United States. While at FIU, she has worked for the Division of Academic and Students Affairs, Enrollment Services, and teaching freshman students. Additionally, Dr. Cruz coordinated departmental initiatives, programming, and the implementation of procedures ensuring compliance between the university and external policies, regulations, and the U.S. Department of Education. Dr. Cruz has diversified experience working in higher education with emphasis in student services, multicultural affairs, admissions, advising, career development, student orientation, academic support services, student technologies, at-risk populations, and college enrollment. Originally from Puerto Rico, she obtained a Bachelor in Science in Psychology from the Inter-American University of PR, a master's degree in counseling from Iowa State University, and completed her doctorate in higher education administration in 2011 at FIU. Dr. Cruz has also worked at other post-secondary institutions such as Iowa State University and University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Her passion is to serve collegiate students and guide them towards graduation. Thank you so much, Dr. Cruz, for being here. And I'm sure, like, I miss seeing you. Like, even if we don't know you by name, we know you. The whole FIU community knows you. So we appreciate you so much for being here today. And also we have Melanie Rodriguez, who, what can I say about Melanie? Superstars. just amazing. Melanie Rodriguez is a first-generation junior at FIU's Honors College, pursuing a double major in English and exceptional student education with a certificate in Excel studies. On campus, Melanie serves as the tutorial coordinator for TRIA's Student Support Services program and is also a participant in the program. She's passionate about working with fellow first-generation students and assisting high school students with the transition to college. Melanie is also a Global Learning Medallion student and currently serves as campus director for the Millennial Fellowship. Overall, Melanie's lifelong goal is to enact social change by combining her passion for the arts with her dedication to activism, youth education, and social justice. Melanie, thank you so much for being here. And as a first-gen student myself, I thank you both and all the panelists for this presentation. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Melanie?
I think Melanie got disconnected a little bit, so I'm just gonna, they look for a lot of resources and we need to celebrate their achievements. They decided on November 8th to be the date because this is in commemoration of the Higher Education Act. And what this act is a piece of legislation, what have done is to really create access to education and kind of promote equality and equity, more important than equality in higher ed. They touch into student access. The Higher Ed Act created student financial aid, FAFSA. I know many of you, Pell Grant, many of you are very aware of those services. And they also created the umbrella of TRIO program. So that is a big celebration that we do all over the nation. And we can go next. Melanie. Next slide. I guess that Melanie is having some issues with technology, but we're gonna go ahead and move to the next one. And basically, I just wanted to share with you that in United States, about 33% of the students, and I'm talking nationwide, are first generation. First generation students are students that they are the one pursuing a bachelor's degree out of their household. And there are other definitions that accompany first generation, but we will stay with that one because it's the one that student financials utilize. But at FIU, we have between 27%, 30% of the students are first generation students. And we know that that is significant because we have the best students, I think, at FIU, and they are the ones that all the time are looking for resources. And it's important for the university to have services and resources available for these students. So as I mentioned before, and we can move a couple of slides, maybe 2 slides forward. At FIU, some of the major services that we have is the first generation scholarship. And I don't know, maybe some members of the audience, they have received the information, but if not, you can always go into firstgen.fiu.edu and also into our academic works and look for additional information into first generation scholarships. What is very important, and I'd like for you to remember, is that FIU have many services with the purpose of having access and more than access, retention, and graduation for our first generation students. Also, a couple of years ago, 2 years ago to be exact, FIU got the recognition to be a first forward institution. And that is a nationwide recognition. And it's a recognition that is based on the services that we provide for first generation students. So very important for you to remember that your FIU institution is a first forward institution. This is a designation that was given to us by NASPA. So with that, I just wanted to emphasize that it's very, very important to celebrate First Generation Day at FIU, especially because we have a lot of first generation students, and you can see some of the pictures there from previous celebrations. And today, this is the last event from the 2020 First Generation celebration. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, everyone. My apologies for the technical difficulties. It started raining by my house. You know, we're still in storm preparation area, season, whatever. So today we're going to focus on the article called "I Was a Low-Income College Student, Classes Weren't the Hard Part." And this is by Anthony Abram Jack. And basically the article is talking about, you know, a lot of the time schools think that the only thing students need, especially first generation students, to succeed is money. And while money plays an important factor in a college student, in a first generation college student's role in college, it's really important to remember that there's a lot more that goes with that, right? So there's a lot of times first generation students are caregivers, they're working, there's so much more that they're doing than just going to school. And that's something that the support really comes in handy. So we're gonna hear from 3 panelists today, all first generation college students, former alumni, current students, graduate students. We have a really cool panel with us today. So I'm gonna pass it over to Dr. Cruz to introduce them, and we'll get started with some questions, and we'll also have some time for Q&A at the end. If any of you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
Thank you, Melanie. I'm very proud of the panelists that we have today. They are all in somehow members of the different TRIO programs that we have at FIU. And just to mention that FIU is a fort for TRIO programs, and TRIO programs mainly serve students that are first generation and students that receive financial aid, and also students that are referred to us by the Office of Disability Resource Center. So we are very proud. I am very proud to have a very special panelist. I'm gonna start with Mr. Tim Dean. He's a TRIO professional. He works all the time, 24/7, preparing students who are first generation. Team specialization is to move students from high school. He is the director of TRIO Upper Bound at FIU. So he moved students that are first generation from high school and provide access so they can come to colleges and universities around the country. He is a first generation student himself, and he accredited TRIO to his success in life. And I know that he is very passionate about helping first generation students. My colleague, Tim Dean. We also have, thank you, Tim, for being with us today. We also have Lordana Gillum. She's a second-year graduate student in the master program in higher ed. She's also a graduate assistant with the Women's Center, and current doing her practicum with Student Support Services, which is also another TRIO program. Lordana, as an undergraduate, she's did her undergraduate at FIU, and she was a participant, a member of the Student Support Services program too. After graduation, Lordana hopes that she can work and help facilitate the college process for first generation students like herself. So thank you, Lordana, for being here with us today. And last but not least, we have Marie Marcel. She's a senior majoring in chemistry at FIU, and she is planning to get a graduate degree into chemistry to pursue a career in cosmetic research. Marie is a former Upper Bound student when she was in high school, She's also part of the Student Support Services. And now to assist also with her transition into grad school, she's also part of the McNair Scholar. So she is trio, and more trio. And in addition to that, she's also part of a Golden Scholar group, which is part of the Student Access and Success, that they are big time also into helping first generation students. So with that, Marie, thank you for being here with us today. So I present to you our panelists.
Amazing. Thank you all for joining us. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have some specific questions for each of the panelists, and then some that everyone is able to answer. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with Tim. So Tim, what do you think about the idea that high school may prepare students to get accepted to college, but not for what happens once they arrive on campus? Who's responsible for preparing students for the world of college and all its complexities, especially for students who will be first-generation college students?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Melanie, for that wonderful question. First, I just want to say thank y'all for the opportunity to think that I have enough knowledge to help y'all through this process. First Generation Day has been a passion of mine. Not first generation student, like Dr. Cruz said, has been a passion for me to work with. And to go along this question, a lot of students go into high school. Most high schools prepare students for college, meaning that they'll allow you to get the good grades, test the scores, and everything like that. But when it comes to going on campus, a lot of our students don't do well, right? Because they didn't learn those nuances that they were supposed to learn in high school. And sometimes you can accredit that because most high school objective is to just graduate to high school, right? I mean, graduate high school and move on to the next level. When you work with TRIO programs, a lot of those programs allow them not only to just graduate from high school, but to graduate from college successfully. What that means is give you those tools that you need to know. So just like the article we're referring to, a lot of our students don't understand the terminology of college, right? They don't understand who they need to go out to and help through all those acts, those when they have a problem that they don't need. Now, when it comes to who's responsible for that, I believe there's a combination, right? The old saying goes that it takes a village to raise a child. So it's going to take the community in order to allow those students to be prepared to be able to handle the complexities of college. So that means parents. I know some of our parents have never been to school before, but we have this Google now that we can reach out to different things and find out, oh, how can I help my child succeed in the college? I did not get this information for myself, but how can I prevent, right? It also reach back into the high schools as well. Most high schools only have a certain amount of counselors to serve the students, right? You might have 2 or 3 counselors in the school and you have close to 1,000 students. There's no way that all those students will get the attention they need in order to prepare them for college. So it comes to the principals, the counselors, to reach out to colleges and different programs to help them to give the resources they need to help prepare those students. So I believe it's a combination of students, parents, the high school administration, and then just colleges per se is why we want to give back to our community. The best way to give back to our community is to reaching out to those high schools and say, how can we help your students prepare to come to our university? So I will leave it on that part.
Thank you so much, Tim. And our next question goes for Marie. So in the article, Anthony compares his college experience to having a sort of dual citizenship. Have you ever related to this? And if so, in what?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. For this question, when I was reading the article, Anthony was speaking on how, immersed in Massachusetts was a place that he didn't know of, and how in that way that was a dual citizenship for him. But the way I related to it was, although I was raised in Miami and FIU is in Miami, during grade school, I stayed within the same area, so everyone was from the same culture as me, the same backgrounds. We had the same experiences. So during my freshman year at FIU, I stayed on campus, and my suite mates were from different countries, different races, different cultures, and I was introduced to a whole new aspect of life because of that. So although I was still in Miami, FIU did, it was a sort of a dual citizenship, because during breaks, I used to go back home, and the neighborhood I was from, you know, we have the same cultures and everything. So you see how you interact with them and how you interact with individuals from different cultures, and in a way it was like a dual citizenship because you get to see both worlds. So yeah.
Right, I think thank you, Marie, for your responses. The next question, I want to direct that to Lordana. Many students find that even after graduation, they still found many of the same concerns that they have as an undergraduate. As a first generation graduate student, can you talk about some of those concerns or the challenges that you are having if you're having them at the graduate school level?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Cruz, and thank you everyone for having me. So I guess to answer this question, I'll go back a little bit to when I was graduating. I did feel a pressure when I was in undergrad. I went to FIU between 2010 and 2014. And even though I wasn't a fan of my major, I did feel a pressure to kind of graduate and get out there in the workforce because my dad had had a kidney transplant when I was in college, and my mother wasn't working. So I felt that pressure to really help in the household. But I knew that I wanted to go back to school eventually. And so I ended up working in a field, realizing that that field wasn't necessarily for me. But then there was that tricky balance of kind of giving grad school, you know, your whole everything, or trying to balance working and going to graduate school part-time. So that was really the option that I was really betting on. And on top of that, trying to bet on landing a job that would help fund that graduate school experience. I tried and I tried, and when I did reach the point a couple years ago that I knew I wanted to go back to school for higher education, I tried to see if I can find work within colleges. I think the very humbling experience is that it's difficult to kind of get your foot into an organization just by cold interviewing. So I had to really sit down and weigh whether or not I wanted to kind of dive headfirst into higher ed. And I had to really sit down with my parents, and I had to talk about what that looked like. And I also had to decide for myself whether or not I felt taking additional assistance like loans would be beneficial to me. Because even though I do have a GA-ship, it doesn't necessarily fund all of my bills. So that was a sacrifice that I eventually chose to do. Thankfully, when I was in undergrad at FIU, I didn't have any loans. So that was a bit easier of a decision for me to make. But that ended up helping a lot. I still do have stressors. Like over the summer, I was banking on an internship, a paid internship. And obviously because of COVID, that kind of fell through. So that ended up being an unexpected stressor. Thankfully, my department, the Women's Center, they kept me on over the summer. So that helped quite a bit. But essentially, kind of weighing out the pros and cons and realizing that making a program work for you and not necessarily the way that it's ideally sold for you kind of helps. Because even though I was struggling to make that decision, I don't regret it at all. I think the experience has been wholeheartedly worth it. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Lordana, for sharing your experience. I would like to go ahead and also, it is something that it was touched in the article, but in many of the meetings or programs or activities that I participate, there is this discussion about the imposter syndrome, you know, meaning that you're kind of in a role that you're in a college, but feeling that you don't belong to college, or sometimes that translates into the professional world. And there have been also discussions about particular gender that go through imposter syndrome more than others. But I wanted to make a question for all the participants tonight to see if you can talk about the imposter syndrome, if you went through a little bit of that, or if you still struggling with some of that. So I'm gonna maybe ask the three of you to touch briefly on that, maybe starting with Mr. Dean.
Yes. So going to school, I attended FIU for my undergrad, and one thing, I came from a great high school, right? That I always talk about as well. But was I prepared for college? No, right? So when I walked on the campus, a lot of my friends had brothers or sisters or mom or dad who actually went through college themselves. So when they start talking about different things, I just went along, right? To say, oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. So in a way, I didn't want to feel that that I was lost, that this was my first time, that I didn't know anything about it. So it took me a while to realize that I didn't have to keep, living to the lie, because I had to eventually find the information and stuff for myself. So eventually I overcame it because I, came into another group of friends who were first generation as well. And we all had the same experiences. So we was able to help out through the process. So yes, I experienced it in the beginning of my freshman year at FIU. And then eventually I had to overcome it.
Marie, do you want to touch on that topic?
Yes. So it was similar to Mr. Dean. I am the first one in my family to go to college, so it was something new for me. I didn't really have anyone, to reference to that I knew personally that went to college. And also when I was declaring my major actually to chemistry, there were a lot of like, for example, my academic advisor who was, are you sure, you want to study chemistry, because it is hard. And I said yes, and I went on. But sometimes during my undergraduate years, you do think like, am I fit for this? Can I really do it? But, now being a senior, I look back, I'm like, I passed all those classes. I gained so much experience. I, accomplished so much. So when I do still get those imposter syndromes, I'm like, look at where you are now. You did this. And it's the same thing for the workplace. When you're at a position, the employer saw something in you that made them, say, okay, you can come and be with us and join our team. That's because they saw something in you. So when you start doubting yourself like this, you just have to remember there's a reason why you're here in that position.
Ms. Loredana?
So similar to Tim, I went to a really good high school. I was fortunate enough to be able to do so. So academically, I felt really comfortable, but I didn't feel comfortable anywhere else. So all the other aspects that make up like a college experience, internships, kind of networking, all of those things, I felt really intimidated by. I'm innately very introverted, and I feel really comfortable just sitting by and observing. But a lot of that is also rooted in me feeling like I don't match up or I'm not as capable as. And I still find that creeping up in my graduate courses. I feel really comfortable in the papers and all of that, but during the in-class discussions, which in grad school, that's the bulk of the class, sometimes I find myself stepping back a little bit. I think what has helped a lot in the GA-ship and even kind of in this COVID landscape is really that kind of fake it till you make it. So it's like kind of talking to yourself and telling yourself that you can do this, or trying to prep yourself as much as you can. That really helps me. And it's still authentically something I'm still battling with. I think it's, a slow process, but kind of reminding yourself. And if you struggle with reminding yourself, people around you, if you ask them, they'll be able to tell you. And they can view you in a light that sometimes you struggle to view yourself in. So that has helped me a lot as well.
Thank you, Loredana, team, and Marie for sharing not only your experiences, but also sharing a little bit of how have you been able to manage the imposter syndrome. Melanie.
Yes, thank you all so much for those answers. You know, as a first-gen student myself, I definitely relate to a lot of what you all touched upon. And following that question, our next question is, in the article, Anthony talks about this idea of a deeply human touch. So how can we create this space on campuses for first-gen students? And what shaped the human touch for you while you were in school, or as you are in school currently? And are there any resources you wish you had known prior to entering college? Do you wish you had during college? Any of that? I know for myself, like I share the same story. Like I went to a really good high school, but then, you know, my graduating class was 43 people. So when I walked into GC the first day, I just wanted to run away and like never come back. So, you know, being able to overcome that and find those spaces, for me, it happens to be places like TRIO Student Support Services and Global Learning, and just places like Lordana said, that will remind you of, you know, you are capable to do these kinds of things. So whoever wants to start first, feel free to go ahead.
I'll jump in. When I first came out here, I was a part of the student support services as well, right? But did I take all the opportunities? No. I ran away from it because of the many things that Dr. Cruz at the time was asking me for. She kept saying, "Hey," she was on top of me. I wasn't used to that, so I tried to run from it. So I wish I used those resources a little bit more. And the way I love it, because the office that I'm a part of, the Student Access and Success Office, right now we're trying to create that environment for those first generation students. They have some place to go to, right? Just like before with the Office of Impasse, creating a lot of initiative for students to come in for those who have questions, so you don't have to go far away. And then you walking into an office that people feel like you or look like you, right? So when you hear those individuals who look like you, feel like you, who have that nice vibe, that welcoming spirit, you feel like I can go in there and they can ask me for anything. And that's what the Impasse office was for me. The Student Support Service office was for myself as well. And just any other office at some of those offices that I walked into FIU helped me out. So that's where the human touch came in. They was actually genuinely concerned about myself, not just about what grades I was getting, and then all these other things. So I believe that helped me to, you know, to get where I am right now.
Thank you so much. And Marie, if you want to take this next.
Yes, it was similar for the student support services as well. And the other organization I was a part of, like Golden Scholars, aside from the academic aspect of it, I was also, you know, they want you to talk about, okay, how are you feeling aside from, you know, how are your grades? Are you doing good in this class, you know? So it was good to have that type of support. And I think a way that the universities can provide this for more students is like for organizations such as, you know, the Caribbean Student Organization or the Black Student Union, and something similar like that, where they're so it's so such a specific type of organization. They can provide counselors for these type of students, and, you know, someone that really can relate and have the same background as them, to, you know, escape from the academic side of it. So if they do need any help aside from anything academic, they can really speak to someone, you know, that they feel they can relate and that understands them.
Thank you so much. And Lordana?
I think similar to Marie and Tim, SSS was a big factor in me feeling like I had community. Both me and a few of my friends that I had from high school, when I saw the opportunity to apply, I told them all about it, and we stayed for the whole 4 years. And I think that was really helpful in making sure that we had a holistic college experience, that we knew to take advantage. Some of my friends took advantage of study abroad in a way that they never would have envisioned, or internships or things like that. And it really helped shape like a full college experience. I think it's important for universities, when you talk about a deeply human touch, that there should be an acknowledgement of the different lives or the different paths that college students kind of have to face when they come into college, instead of kind of selling like the ideal college story. Because I think what students struggle with oftentimes is that what they have to navigate doesn't necessarily look like having the freedom to kind of join on campus and not have to work, and to be able to be immersed in frat life, and for everything to just kind of materialize that way. A lot of students have to work part-time. Like you mentioned earlier, they have duties at home, they have to caregive. And I think being mindful of that and kind of showing resources to allow them to have a modified but still full college experience will allow them to kind of get through and feel seen or heard, or that it's capable for them.
Thank you all so much for sharing this. I think, one common theme that we want to take away from this is the idea of building your own community, finding the community that you need, that, you belong in college. And I think, also just that idea of, like many of you mentioned, someone who will be there to ask you, like, how are you? And the answer is not expected to just be, I'm good, like someone who will really listen to you and take into account all of these other things that make you up as a person, besides your academics. So we have our final question for the panel, and this is, a general question, and then we'll hear from Elliot Warner from the Office of Admissions to talk about the Strive for College program and some initiatives that FIU has for first-generation college students. And after that, we'll open the floor to questions. But our last question for the panel is, what advice do you have for current first-generation students?
So I'll start. Yeah, so I think two things. One, like Lordana just said, Marie said, you got accepted to the FIU. That means you are a college student, right? You have the ability to graduate. You have the ability to do all these things, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be accepted here. And then I would say also remember to reach out and ask questions. One of our biggest problems as first gen, we're scared to ask questions because we don't feel that we deserve to be here. Ask the questions. There's a lot of resources on campus, a lot of resources here to help you get those answers that you need, so you can feel more comfortable here and you graduate on time. And last but not least, I know a lot of you are first in your family. Your families are putting so much pressure on you because you got to be the first one to finish. You got to be this, whatever. I would say don't allow them to put that much pressure on yourself, because once again, you're going to stress yourself out way before you need to, because of all that pressure they're allowing you to put on yourself. Once again, once you start doing this, it's for you to accomplish this goal. It's for you to get through it. It's for you to put that accomplishment on, and then you'll receive everything on after that. So make sure you don't put so much pressure on yourself, and then also reach out and ask questions and get around that community that needs to help you get to that next level.
Thank you, Tim. Marie.
Similar to Mr. Tim, just don't let, discouraging feelings and self-doubt consume you, especially during your first year as a first-generation student. And don't be afraid to ask questions, go to office hours, I know could be different, and, to speak to professors after, class hours, and make use of all the opportunities and organization that are provided to first-generation students. So.
Thank you, Marie. Jordana.
I think I'll say that there are several paths to get to one goal. Oftentimes when you're first generation, you're navigating oftentimes without a lot of mentorship in your family. So sometimes you may go for something and you realize it really wasn't what you were expecting, but there was no other way to go about it without going through it. And sometimes that can be discouraging, but if you do have something in mind or whatever you feel like your purpose is, to kind of not let those roadblocks, or I don't like to call them failures, but missteps, kind of stop you. It's really easy, and with all the pressures and everything, you kind of want to either feel like you have to commit to something or that you can't afford to make a mistake. But as long as you're doing something, whether it's work related or hobby related, that's something kind of adds on to your story and will lead you on to where you need to be.
Thank you to all of you for your responses. So as Melanie indicated, we're gonna give some time to Mr. Elliot Warner. He's part of our admission staff at FIU, and he's gonna talk about the Strive for College program and then we will open some time for questions from the audience. Elliot.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cruz. Great introductions. And actually, thank you so much to the panel, because a lot of what you guys mentioned, as Dr. Cruz mentioned, I am a recruiter in the Office of Admissions, specializing in first-gen students. And easily the biggest thing that I encounter when I talk to first-gen students is a lack of mentorship, a lack of guidance on the steps, on the transitional period between applying for college and actually being on campus. And seeing all of your different stories, that's something that you guys have experienced in your time and you guys have already finished. And so that's actually what I'm going to talk about with our Strive for College. That's an opportunity, and hopefully something that you guys will take from this presentation to provide mentorship opportunities to all first-gen students. So what it is, Strive for College is literally a free mentorship opportunity to students who maybe need a guiding hand in terms of maybe centralizing your application process when it comes to navigating applying for school. Because we get it, when you're applying to a number of different universities, you're not just applying to FIU, you need letters of recommendation, sometimes you need resumes, the application themselves, deadlines. It can be overwhelming, especially when, as our panelists said, you guys have other obligations that you guys are taking care of at home, and along with your general high school academics. So Strive for College puts you in contact and actually establishes a one-on-one mentorship relationship with higher ed individuals spread all throughout the country. So they may not just be located in your hometown or maybe in your state of residence, but these are higher ed professionals spread all throughout the nation who develop this one-on-one relationship to guide you through this process from the beginning of your application, be it when you're taking your SATs, maybe in November of your senior year, all the way till the moment that you submit that deposit and that you say, hey, I am a proud student of insert university here. It's something that I really want to make clear to students, because when I go out and I'm talking to them in person in a post or pre-COVID world, the biggest thing that I encounter is students don't understand deadlines, and you're not taught email etiquette. So this opportunity, this program, Strive for College, helps you establish all of these necessary skills at a slow but steady basis. You know what I mean? We're not expecting you to magically have all of these abilities. It's something that takes time, but having somebody to help guide you through this process and to be able to address and alleviate all of those concerns that can be stressful, like you mentioned, this person is here to help guide you through this process. But even cooler, as part of the Strive Scan, they have this really awesome nonprofit, which they call I'm First. And this is the actual centralized version. This is what our first-gen students, this is there for you. So it's really cool because Strive for College actually adopted this. They realized that they wanted to make this a part of their umbrella because it's a service that helps, like I said, alleviate and address those concerns that you may not have anyone to discuss. Dr. Cruz, do you mind if I share my screen right quick?
No problem. I think Florencia needs to make you a co-host.
Elliot, you're a co-host already.
Yes,
All right.
for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So as you guys see here, this is the I'm First website. As I said, the nonprofit that was acquired by Strive for College. And the reason that I want to highlight this to you guys is, as you see up top, they have stories, blogs, and colleges. Those three subheadings there, I want to make sure that you guys are very, very aware of. The stories and the blogs functions allow you guys to read instances and experiences that other first-gen students have encountered. And as Marie or Loredana also said, instead of calling them failures, we want to call them roadblocks, because it's natural that if you've never experienced or never had to go through this process, that, hey, it may not be smooth sailing. So please make sure to utilize these resources. Again, this is completely free at no cost to you, the student. So make sure, just add this onto your guidance counselor at school. Add this onto your admissions counselors. This is just another resource to make sure that you have an avenue to be able to access all types of information to ease this process. But the last thing is our college heading, because this actually pulls up a list of partnership schools and universities. For those that are you're still in that process of deciding where it is that you want to attend school. These are all partnered universities that have prioritized working with first-gen students. So you know that as we have our TRIO programs here at the university, we constantly spend the time and the effort we put on this week because we understand that we have a large first-gen population and we want them to feel as though they have the resources, that they know that FIU cares for those students. I'm actually going to highlight it. I want to make it clear that FIU does prioritize our first-gen students, and that we want you to know that the resources are there. There are scholarships. There are scholarships for first-gen students, as Dr. Cruz mentioned at the beginning of our presentation. Depending on your unique circumstances, we know that some students may have a very difficult home life. We have a number of different resources, whether it comes to paying for your education, whether it comes to housing for those of you that may be in unique circumstances. We have food banks on our MMC and BBC campuses. These are all amenities and opportunities that are available to you guys. Please, please, please make sure that you ask these questions. All you have to, if you ask the question to any of these people on the committee, anyone at FIU, we will help guide you through this process. We want you to be able to succeed with us. And that's why we put so much time and effort into making sure that you guys have all these opportunities and amenities before you. Okay, I know I talk a lot, you know what I mean? I got all the emotion in me. But that's really it in terms of Strive for College and I'm First. We just want you guys to know that that mentorship opportunity is out there, and that FIU ensures that we are a trailblazer. That's the way I want to use it, a trailblazer when it comes to taking care of our first-gen students. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elliot. And I think it's very important also for all the audience here to know that there are resources available, specifically if you are a first-generation student, or if you know someone that is a first-generation student that needs help. Teen and the participants have mentioned multicultural programs and services at MPAS. So you can do MPAS at fiu.edu, and you can find resources that are available there for you. Again, I mentioned the first generation scholarship. So you can also find information about that. Student access and success. They have a lot of programs from, I think Marie mentioned also Golden Scholar, Foster Panther Pride programs. A lot of the other TRIO programs, they are all together into student access and success. So please take advantage and find resources. This is very important. And with that, I also would like to open now to any question that anyone from the audience have for any of the presenters, or Melanie or myself or Elliot. So you can type your questions in the chat, or you can just let us know.
Dr. Cruz, I see one from Elena Suarez Moreno. It says, hello, I was wondering if my sister and I are students. If we started FIU this semester, can we apply for these scholarships if we have financial aid, and even since we are first to join a university? If so, how can we register or acknowledge the scholarship for this opportunity?
You go to the first generation scholarship site. All the requirements are there. And also through the staff of Academic Works, they can be very helpful in kind of pointing out not only about that, but other scholarships that are available for first generation students. Very good question.
And Melanie just put the website in the chat, guys, if you need to access it.
Thank you, Melanie.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes, Mandy.
So I'm actually a first generation myself, and like hearing all these panels talk, I'm actually very inspired. But my question is, we talked about challenges, and we talked about, you know, some hardships or like some roadblocks we experience. Is there any like positivity or like positive side of being a first generation?
Any of panelists?
I would say, of course. It's one way you can look at it is as a person who's always looking for something new, right? So everything that you encounter is be something new. And another thing is that a lot of, just like Elliot stated, a lot of universities are trying to help first generation students. So those scholarships and those opportunities will be for you because they're looking out for you, as opposed to somebody who's not a first generation student won't have that much access to these scholarships and these opportunities out there. So being the first generation, it can be a lot of positive with it as well. Because remember, there's a lot of resources that people are trying to give you now, so you can be on the same playing field as everybody else.
I wanted to add to that and I'm going to let Loredana and Marie address that, but team talk about resources, but I wanted to let you know, Mandy, when you are applying to positions or are you applying to programs or potential grad school or work, the fact that you are a first generation student and they can see all the achievements that you have, that tells a lot. That tells me that you are very resourceful in completing, that you have, that term is called resilience, that, you don't give up, just because sometimes there are challenges for first generation students. They are the bravest. They have a lot of courage. They come to college in the fact that they complete college, that's a great achievement itself. So there's a lot of things that, especially when people are viewing your opportunities for positions or for grad school, and they know that you're first generation, that tells a lot. I don't know if Marie and Lornana have something else to add to Mandy's comments.
Yes, I wanted to say the being in the programs provided for first generation students, you do have the ability to network. That is something I don't know if I would have had that. I don't know if I would have, because within workshops and we are provided with a lot of workshops, and we get to meet a lot of individuals. You get to have conversations with them and gain a relationship with them, and those type of relationships do take you to the next level and help you. You don't know when you're gonna need that person, but you have them because you created that network. So that's one thing as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. I was gonna add that to echo what Dr. Cruz said, the resilience or like the grit that you build in the roadblocks that may come your way will only help you in the future. Like those are skills that will never not be valuable. If you struggled with the class because you kind of didn't know how to maneuver, but you pushed through anyway. When you encounter a struggle in your first job with something someone never taught you how to do, you'll be able to push through easily because you've had to do that in the past. And like Timothy and Marie mentioned, that mixed with the resources that you have available will really kind of put you in the path for great success in the future. So I think it's only of benefit, and you'll have different perspectives to be able to help others, no matter kind of in what field you land. You'll be able to kind of see things from different angles. So I think that's a benefit as well.
Thank you all so much for your answers. Definitely, something that we can all relate to. There's so much positivity in being a first generation student, so much resilience, so much that, you're able to overcome. And I think one thing to stress, like Loredana mentioned, is you bring that unique perspective. You bring something that is different from maybe, someone else who has had all the access like throughout their life. You're able to see situations differently. And I think that's a very valuable perspective to have. And I see one more question in the chat from Christina that says, for the panel, how do you deal with the uncertainty of your major? Because even though I love my major, I'm always paranoid that I will never find a good job and have to start over potentially with a career I have no interest in. And I think, this is something as first gen we can all relate to a lot of the times in terms of our family expectations and, things of that nature. So whoever wants to answer, go ahead.
I'll go. When I always say this, I remember my junior year, my spring semester. I even remember like what I had on, because I remember sitting in one of the classes, and I was a health services administration major. I wanted to kind of go the corporate route. And I remember sitting in that class and thinking, I don't want to do this. But I kind of felt like I didn't have an option but to push through and do it. So that's what I did. And I even found a job relatively quickly. I had an internship after graduation, ended in August, and by mid or late September, I was in a job. So everything happened really quickly. And I was even in a job that I really have no complaints with. I just knew that the field wasn't for me. So then I ended up taking a couple little side paths. I taught for 1 year, worked for a nonprofit for a couple years. But I did know that I wanted to work in a college environment. So even though I took all these twists and turns, I ended up in the area that I was passionate in. So I think that if you love your major and that's truly your passion, even though it may not have a clear path, like it may not be like, for example, I'm a nursing major, I want to be a nurse. There is something there for you, and you just have to stick with it because it'll all work itself out. Because that feeling you have, it'll come out at some point. So that's my perspective.
Thank you, Lordana. And I know we're running a little bit out of time, but we have prepared for our last year celebration a beautiful video for first generation students at FIU. And we would like to show that a minute before we close the program today. So if Melanie is ready, we can play the video.
Perfect. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect.
That was hard to read.
Okay.
That was really touching.
I'm like shaking.
You're rolling. Are you rolling?
Perfect. So you could introduce yourself. What's your name, your major, your year?
So my name is Michelle Tulande. I'm getting my master's in marketing right now. And yeah, I'm gonna be the first person in my family to get my master's.
I'm a chemistry student at FIU. I'm also an international student and a first generation graduate.
And I'm the first person in my family to graduate with a master's.
I am the first person to graduate from college in my family.
My mom moved from New York to Florida, and when I was leaving high school in Jamaica, I applied to FIU, and FIU accepted me first. So I said, let's do it.
And I saw FIU as like a world of opportunity to just go in and do something that no one in my family's done before.
Without my family, this 110% would not have been possible.
So this letter's from my mom. My mom means a lot to me. This is a letter from my mom. I don't know what she wrote. So like, whoo.
My letter's from my dad, who lives in Colombia.
This letter's from my dad. I'm scared.
Hey, LeJean. You are the steady, serious, and ambitious young man that any family would be proud of.
Let me first congratulate you on a job well done. You did it, my sweet girl. You made the dream a reality and conquered the task that I know at times brought immense challenges.
Yo sabía que este día llegaría rápido, porque te creíste una meta desde un temperado en tu vida. I don't have enough words to express how proud I am of you and your accomplishments.
You finally joined us in the US when you were 15 years old, where years before I also landed here with the dream of making myself better.
Quiero decirte, hija, que estoy súper orgullosa de verte lograr tus metas.
We congratulate you on your impressive achievement. You will forever be beloved son and grandson.
The journey for us as a family was unpredictable and at times scary. You made the decision to pursue your tertiary education away from home and set out to make your mark.
Te quiero, mi Nicole, y te deseo mucho éxito en todo lo que propongas hacer.
Today, you just showed the world that it was possible with effort, dedication, and still determination.
I look forward to seeing what new adventure life will take you on. I love you with all my heart, Mommy.
Me siento muy orgulloso por tus logros, hija querida. Dios te bendiga.
That was hard to read.
Thanks everybody for celebrating the achievements of our first generation at FIU, and to Florencia and the Global Learning opportunity for having us as part of your series program Jordana, Tim, Marie, and Melanie, thank you very much for organizing this activity. Elliot, thank you for your presentation also in I Am First. So I'm looking forward to next year's celebration, and hopefully we will do this again in person. So see you later. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I have a second event now and I'm crying. This was amazing. And one thing that I will say, and Melanie can attest to this, and I hope that all you first gen come and present, create your presentations and present. We are so proud of every single one of you. And you're stars, you're like superstars. And then you come and teach us all. So keep going at it. Thank you so much to the panelists and Dr. Cruz and Melanie for putting this amazing panel together. Melanie, if you want to share the link for the rest of the events, in case the people want to sign up for the week, for the rest of the week, we also want to honor our veterans. Remember, we have a special event at 3, but there's events all week long also for Veterans Appreciation Week and First Gen Week. Please sign up. And I'm glad that you guys took the time to be here. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.